Welcome back to the Morning Show here on the Rise News. The National Assembly yesterday approved 160 billion naira for the payment of the new minimum wage for federal workers and payment of severance benefits. Well, joining us now to speak on the new minimum wage as it pertains to workers' standard of living, among several other headline issues, is Senator Shehu Sani. Welcome to the Morning Show, Senator Sani.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, good morning, Senator. Well, we'll talk about the budget later, but let me start with another topical issue, which is the release of Zainab Aliyu. You have been very vocal on that issue. So should I say, that's really commendable. But will you be willing to congratulate the Buhari administration on the effort made so far to get her freed? And we're told that Ibrahim Abubakar is also likely to be released by the Saudi authorities today. You've been very critical of the Buhari administration, but maybe this is an opportunity for you to praise President Buhari for having done something, in the interest of the average Nigerian. What do you think?
Thank you again for having me. Well, first of all, in an issue like this, especially the one that concerns Zainab, a lot of people need to be congratulated. First of all, is the parents of the girl who, without their resolve, their resilience, the people could not have known. Secondly, is the young people on social media that kept this issue alive and sending a clear message that the government needs to do something. That powered and propelled the government to action. And the third aspect of it is the federal government for doing what it's supposed to do. So I believe that a lot of people have made a serious contribution on this, and it cannot simply be to say it is President Buhari or the federal government that freed Zainab. Without pressure, without objection, without revolt of people saying the government need to wake up and do what it needs to do, certainly it could have simply be one of several cases. After all, there are still people who are either in captivity of the insurgents or the bandits or out of the country needing attention, and they have still not been attended to. So the president can be commended, the federal government, and also others who have also equally contributed. Without their action, without their pressure, we couldn't have achieved what we have achieved today.
You've also been incredibly vocal about the security challenges in Kaduna State. Are you being heard by the federal government? And what can be done to create a similar sort of pressure group that was successful in the release of Zainab Aliyu with regards to security in the north as a whole?
Well, Zainab Aliyu and security issues in the north are two different things. As far as the security in the north is concerned, we are under siege and the nation is at war. On the northwestern part of the country, the bandits have taken over many local governments, making life unbearable, kidnapping and killing people, Zamfara, Kaduna State, Kaduna, and Niger State, and spilling over to outskirts of Abuja. And in North Central, the headsmen are still killing people, and we have communal clashes and religious, ethno-religious violence still going on. In the northeast, you can see the audacity of the terrorists, the insurgents, attacking even the capital city of Damaturu, still attacking and taking local governments in Borno State, and still constituting a menace to parts of Adamawa State. So virtually the security issues in northern state is one that requires government to do more than it is doing. All we're having today is each time you have an attack, there will be closed-door meeting between the president and security chiefs, and then when they come out, we will be told that the marching orders have been given for security to act, and then you don't hear anything about it again. So what I've said is that the government effort can only be appreciated if we start delivering result. You cannot continue to address a 21st century crime with a 20th century strategy. In Kaduna, the state, part of the state is virtually in the hands of insurgents. In Birningwari local government, in parts of the Igabi local government, in Kajuru local government today, it has become so uninhabitable and inhospitable. But the issue is this: we can have a government that is controlled or that is headed by many people who come from northern part of Nigeria, and we're still having all these kind of killings and kidnappings, it's very clear that if the government, the political establishment, the governing political elites are interested in addressing this problem, it can happen. I've always cited two examples where they were able to show action. In the last year, when the Nnamdi Azikiwe airport was closed down, and then flights were diverted to Kaduna, you can see within the very 2-3 months, when people have to move from Kaduna to drive down to Abuja, there was no one single incident of kidnapping. The roads were secured, helicopters, the military were deployed. There was total security from the beginning to the end. Immediately after the Abuja airport became operational, the kidnappers returned to the work. And secondly, during the elections, the governors used public resources to deploy security in the states, even one of the most kidnapping-prone states like Zamfara and Kaduna and Niger. And there was no cases of kidnapping. So you can see that the political elites, the governing political elites, when it comes to the issue that affects their own personal interests, they are prepared to spend resources, deploy men, and commit themselves resolutely to ensure that things are done. But here, we are having a serious case of insecurity collapse in northern Nigeria. And this government, no matter how laudable and lofty and noble its own ideas and policies are, as long as people's lives are not secure, are not safe, we cannot say anything has been achieved on the ground.
And just before we come to Labour, because we dedicated today to Labour's Day, let me ask you about the race for leadership of the 9th National Assembly, particularly the Senate. What do you make of what is playing out? I mean, the APC and the PDP, you know, keeping their block votes and threatening to decide who they will go with on that day. And particularly, what are the chances of Senator Ahmed Lawan, in your own opinion?
Well, Ahmed Lawan is said to be the choice of the president. And it is possible he can be the president of the Senate. But a number of things needs to be done. And one is for the ruling party to learn from its mistake, which it has not done. If you have 3 candidates, Lawan, Goje, and Ndume, and any of them who the PDP are comfortable with will certainly emerge. Because as it is now, the PDP and the National Assembly are more united than the ruling party. They don't have the bickerings and the crisis that the ruling party has. And whoever gets the block board of the PDP will only need 10 senators or 12 for him to emerge from the APC. So, first of all, the APC has not learned its lessons. And secondly, utterances that are coming out of APC leaders who's not candidacy of Ahmed Lawan. When you start threatening the opposition that you are not going to get any committee, when you start showing them it will be winner takes all, when you start saying your candidate should not speak to anybody or other people from your party, you are simply alienating him. And when you also portray him simply as somebody who's going to be there as a lackey, as a stooge, I don't think he can scale through. To help Ahmed Lawan, there are a number of things that need to be done. First of all, the president shouldn't just talk to Ahmed Lawan. He's supposed to talk to Ndume and talk to Goje. And it is not only about talking to the person you like, but you also need to talk to the person who is not your favorite. The support of these 2 people is crucial to the victory of Lawan. If you don't do that, these people can undermine Lawan's chances or can align themselves with other forces from the opposition and take over the seat. Nobody is going to vote on that day. The APC Executive National Working Committee are not going to vote. The president is not going to vote. It will be the senators and the members of House of Reps that will vote. And from my own experience and from my own understanding of what is going on now. I will not be with them. But from what I've seen, if you have a secret ballot, there is no way the candidate of the president can win. If you have an open ballot, I believe that it is the president candidate can possibly win, because the president will likely sit down in the sitting room and there will be live TV, and then he'll be watching his senators, his members, House of Reps, and I believe out of that courtesy, they will not like to do things differently. But what is going on now, and who determines whether it's going to be secret or open ballot, it's still going to be the senators and members of House of Reps and what the standing order says. So in a situation like this, you need to soften your tone. You need to help the person whom you want him to take over position. You need to help him by not antagonizing others, by not threatening others, by not showing that he is simply going to dare to do your bidding. For now, if you look at what has happened in 2015, Lawan stood as the candidate of the president. But what we have not heard, whether the president has spoken to Bukola Saraki and tell him openly and categorically that he shouldn't contest. If you only talk to the person you want and you refuse to talk to the person who is not your favorite, then we are going to have a repeat of what has happened in 2015.
Well, Senator Shehu Sani, I've been going through your Twitter account, and I noticed that usually a lot of people tend to attack you, disagree with you, and you're also quick to respond. But there was something I saw about 16 hours ago. Someone saying you are an extinguished senator. You know, I know the usual thing is to say distinguished senator, but it says you are extinguished, meaning that it's referring to what happened during the general elections in Kaduna State. I also saw a tweet, somebody saying, well, at last, the governor of Kaduna State has been able to get you out of the Senate. What exactly happened in Kaduna State, and how do you feel after that general election, either in Kaduna State or generally, and what are your next plans?
Well, for all I know very well is that there is nothing like a distinguished senator. To be able to serve for 4 years with dignity and honor, I believe is what is most important to me. And then secondly, there is nothing new about a governor removing a senator he doesn't like because he felt threatened by his profile or is uncomfortable or that threat to present a serious threat to him. We have seen governors in the last 20 years removing senators. We have also seen senators, we have seen governors finishing their term trying to be senators and losing election. We have also seen governors leaving office and ending up in prison. So there is virtually nothing wrong with me. Reuben, as a man of history, you know, I was not made by joining a political party. We come from a long journey of struggle and a serious struggle in our history. So Kaduna State Governor is a product of the establishment. He is a man who cannot stand without Buhari. He cannot speak without Buhari. He is a career loyalist. He identifies with whoever he finds in position of power. This was a man who was ready to lick the boots and lick the ass of President Obasanjo, and who was ready to fight everybody because of him. When Obasanjo was in power, where is the relationship between them? This was a man who was ready to die for Atiku because Atiku brought him to limelight. Now, where is it? So the kind of opportunistic loyalty that exists between Buhari and El-Rufai is simply a question of time. It is a matter of time because the very day Buhari is out of power, El-Rufai will now find footing in another, whoever is going to be there. So the whole idea of what has happened in Kaduna election is the fact that I was rigged out of that election. Right now, as I'm talking to you, El-Rufai lawyer, private lawyer, he is a lawyer recruited by INEC to stand for them in my case. And if you know that you have actually defeated Shehu Sani in a free and fair election, how does your private lawyer become the lawyer of INEC? And we are in court. We have our files, we have documents provided to us by INEC themselves of the kind of fraud that was done. So El-Rufai is saying he has removed Shehu Sani. I don't think every vote that Shehu Sani got from that election is for Shehu Sani. Every vote El-Rufai got in Kaduna election is for Buhari's vote. If he wants to defeat Shehu Sani, please get out of Buhari's shadow like the way I did, and let's see how many votes you are going to get. So you cannot hide under Buhari and now said you have removed Shehu Sani. Nobody can remove me. I have gotten my vote, and I'm going to defend it, and I'm going to show the fraud, the corruption, the falsehood that was done in the guise of integrity and a transparent election. So as far as I'm concerned, this is an issue that I'm done with, and we're moving forward. And we're in court now.
Well,
how do you rate the federal government's approach to labor holistically, looking at the lengthy negotiations that brought about the new minimum wage, looking at the bailout funds, and also the bright prognosis for the future given by the Minister for Labor and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, under the Buhari administration?
Well, the federal government has signed, the president has accented to the minimum wage. And to remind you, I took part in many protests and demonstrations for minimum wage over the years, even as a senator. And then I was also a member of the Senate Committee on Minimum Wage that speedily approved that and made it possible for the president to accent his signature. And then I can say that the government was not willing to accede to minimum wage so easily until there was pressure on it and a serious threat to its own survival as a government. If increasing the minimum wage was an agenda of this administration, it could have happened from 2015. But if we have seen that this was a build-up to 2019 election, and suddenly they became converted to it. But I believe that also the governor, the president, is battling pressure, still battling pressure on the side of governors who are very reluctant to implement the minimum wage. And anybody who thinks that after the president assent, the governors will pay minimum wage of 30,000, I think he's simply daydreaming and living in a fool's paradise. Many of the governors will not say it publicly to the president that we will not pay or we cannot pay, but certainly the workers will pay dearly for it. There are some states, there are some states where the governors are labor friendly, and there are some states that the governors are hostile to labor. And there are some states where the labor union is strong, and there are some states where it is weak. So this is going to be a continuous battle. For all I know, that some will either adopt the formula of retrenching workers, or they will adopt other formulas of refusing to pay the minimum wage and say whoever don't want to can go. So the battle is a continuous one, but we should look at it very, very holistically. This country has the resources to pay minimum wage. These governors who are complaining they don't have minimum wage have spent billions for elections, in billboards, in advertisement, in buying votes, and doing so many things with public money. So they have no reason not to pay the minimum wage, and we should be ready to battle them. The governor of my state is one of the most hostile to workers, and the workers know it very well. And they are going to face the battle in that very state. He has not done anything in the last 3 years other than complaining that Shehu Sani refused to give him a loan of $350 million. And you can see even the president of the country is going to Borno State, a state ravaged by insurgency, to commission projects. And Borno has never approached me as a chairman of the Senate Committee on Foreign Local Debt to approve any loan for them. You can see the work done in Gombe State. You can see the work done in Sokoto State. Very beautiful, tremendous. They have done a lot. But for the governor of my state, who has retrenched over 60,000 people, he still is having battle. It's going to be a bitter battle between him and workers in that very state. And I know that until you pay that 30,000 minimum wage, no governor shall have peace from the side of the workers and people.
Well, we'll see how that plays out. But let me ask you two real quick questions. Initially, you implied that Senator Ahmed, being the preferred candidate of president for the Senate leadership, is a stooge. But let me ask you, because you understand the workings of the National Assembly, the Senate in particular, does a preferred candidate by the party imply a rubber stamp leadership for the Senate? Isn't it a misplaced argument? That's one. Secondly, I want you to weigh in on recent comments by the national leader of the APC about the Senate, especially when he talked about the fact that the 8th Senate, puts a brake on progress and good governance.
First of all, let me make clarification. I did not call Ahmed Lawan a stooge. All what I said was that the ruling party and the executive should not portray him that he is simply going there to do their bidding. That will be alienating him. That will be setting him up against those who staunchly wants to defend the independence and the sanctity of the parliament. And what most people want is a robust stand. What most people in the executive want is a robust stand parliament. And that is why any individual who will afford to go to the National Assembly is either he becomes a stooge, a lackey, and maintain his seat, many people of them, or if he becomes independent-minded of himself, then he has a lot of battle to fight. If you portray Ahmed Lawan as simply going there to do everything that Buhari wants, you should ask yourself whether that is also the interest of other legislators who are in that very house. Whoever is going to play the role of a stooge at the National Assembly in a position of leadership, he will not win, and if he wins, he will not survive. That's a fact of the matter, even in the 9th Senate. So the position is very clear. Sell Ahmed Lawal as one that is experienced, capable, and that will protect the integrity and sanctity of the National Assembly and also do things better than the one he succeeded, rather than saying that he is a loyalist, he is a pro-Buhari, he is this, he is that, selling him as simply a sycophant. That would not be helpful to him. And on the brawl between the Aswaju and Dogara and Saraki, like I've said some time ago when I tweeted, it's a continuation of the problem, the war in 2015 that led to the emergence of leadership of the National Assembly. It's also the beginning of a new one. I see it more as a battle between the two forces. And mind you, you can't have the leadership of the National Assembly in the 9th Senate while denigrating the influence of even Saraki and Dogara. They are still there, and they hold influence, position of influence, and they can still influence issues. So as far as the attack from Aswaju comes, he is simply bitter on what has happened in 2015, and he wants to make sure that things are on his own side in 2019. So apart from that, I don't see anything. And the new leadership that is going to come must portray themselves as one that is there to protect the integrity of the National Assembly and also make sure that it is an institution that will hold the executive to account and also ensure the independence of that institution as it is. And if the Aswaju will want to have a National Assembly that's simply going to be rubber stamping Buhari's bills and issues, I don't think that will be helpful to whoever he wants to sell to their members. As for now, I can tell you that the Ahmed Lawan is the favorite of the candidate, but he has no option other than to even talk to the people whom the executive don't want to talk to. And he has to talk to the people whom the executive don't like their faces, because that's the only way he can get the votes that are needed for him to emerge.
Well, Senator Shehu Sani, well, I mean, you are also known as Comrade Shehu Sani because before you went into politics, you were an activist. Are you concerned about the fact, about the point we raised earlier on this program, that today is Labor Day, and there has been no statement from the president, who is on a private visit to the UK? That's one. Two, what's the mood among your colleagues about President Buhari's private visit to the UK? The Senate seems to be silent on that, or could it be that there is a letter somewhere that has not been announced?
First of all, I believe that they will issue a statement. The president will issue a statement. And he actually, if you go through his history, has not been anti-workers for a number of times. But it has to do with the kind of people who he has surrounded himself with. Perhaps those who may not have told him to do what he needs to do at the right time. But it is wrong for us to have up to 10 o'clock now, getting to 10, without any statement. But I believe that before the day is out, they will still issue a statement. They cannot afford for this day to pass without that statement. And your second question about the president's private visit, I'm not aware of any letter written by the president to the National Assembly that he has gone to a private visit, and it has not been read on the floor. And actually, I don't know whether there is anything private visit in the Nigerian Constitution for a president. So as far as I'm concerned, I think that issue has not come for the fact that perhaps the 8th National Assembly is folding up, and we have been busy trying to tidy up the bills that have been made, and also seeing what we can do at the last minute on the issue of security. If you can remember, the motion I have raised led to over the killings in Kajuru, in Kaduna State, and the kidnappings in Kaduna State and other parts of northern Nigeria, led to the invitation of the IG, which we learned he has graciously responded that he is going to be with us on Tuesday. So I think the attention is more on tidying up our books and also the security challenges. I am not aware of any letter written to say this is what the president is, where the president is going. But I think these are issues that need to be tackled. There shouldn't be gray areas in governance. If the president is out of the country for medical reasons, there is nothing wrong with that. After all, a man in his late 70s or mid-70s, I don't know, he should deserve it and he needs it. And if the president is out on issues of national interest, I think the public needs to know that when you leave a lacuna or a gap or a space without filling up with relevant information, then you create fertile ground for speculation and spreading of rumors.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Comrade Shehu Sani. It's been a great delight having you on the morning show. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, it's now time for a short break on the morning show. When we return, we'll have Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni join us to review top stories in today's newspapers. Stay with us.